Let's begin in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where the security situation has reached, quote, alarming levels. That's according to the country's prime minister earlier this week. She says more than 7,000 people have been killed in the ongoing conflict since the start of the year. Now, many among the dead are civilians. The M23 rebel group intensified its offensive on eastern DRC in January, fighting the Congolese army and taking control of major cities in North and South Kivu provinces. The M23 is the most prominent of more than 100 armed groups vying for control of the eastern DRC's trillions of dollars in mineral wealth. Copper, gold, and cobalt are some of the most sought after. Now, a few weeks ago, M23 captured the two biggest cities, Goma and Bukavu. But the group says its sights are set on regions further away. They threaten to push their offensive all the way to the capital, Kinshasa. The rebels are backed by nearly 4,000 soldiers from Rwanda. That is according to experts from the United Nations Monitoring Group, who condemn such interference from a foreign power. They hold Rwanda accountable for M23's actions, citing its direct influence over the rebel group. Now, the UN Security Council has called on the Rwandan forces to stop supporting M23 and immediately withdraw from the DRC. Well, Rwanda, for its part, continues to deny the allegations, but says it will protect its national interest. Eastern DRC has seen conflict for 3 decades, but the current escalation has sparked an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. Nearly 500,000 people have been internally displaced, many of them women and children. Now, in a moment, we'll hear from the head of MONUSCO, the UN's peacekeeping mission in DRC. But first, here's Prime Minister Judith Suminwa Tuluka.
We are seeing cases of cholera, mpox, tuberculosis, and so it is important that we can really ensure the opening of a humanitarian corridor to help displaced people. I will spare you all the other torments suffered by the population, including the women and girls who are raped and the young people who are cowardly murdered. So it is a fairly difficult situation for this population, and it is important that we are able to tackle this and that we are able to arrive at a certain number of sanctions.
Joining me now is Bintu Keita. She is the head of the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's the peacekeeping mission, also known as MONUSCO. Hello, madam. Welcome to DW News Africa. Fighting in the DRC has intensified over the past few weeks. How would you describe the current situation on the ground?
Well, thank you for inviting me for this interview. Just to say, from 4th to 5th January up to now, we've seen an acceleration of the expansion of territories taken and controlled by M23, supported by Rwandan Defense Forces. And this has created a lot of movement of the population. And so we have a high number of displaced people in Goma, but in and around Goma, but also the same, which has now come into effect in South Kivu with Kavumu and Bukavu and Kamanyola and some other locations in South Kivu.
Right.
So the implication for the people is absolutely tremendous in terms of suffering, because we already had, we have been in this situation for over 3 years now, and this last acceleration is really problematic.
But, you know, as you say, it's not even just 3 years, right? I mean, this is a conflict that has been going on for over a decade. And you've, you know, spoken to the UN Security Council. How optimistic are you that they will actually do something about it this time?
Well, when we look at the mobilization recently, because you talked about acceleration, and I do agree with the term acceleration of the expansion of territories and controlling territories. It's about the fact that more and more member states are mobilized in different configurations on the continent, in the European Union, but also the Security Council is mobilized and has provided now a landmark resolution, which is the resolution 2773, which clearly spells out what needs to happen in terms of the initiative, the peace processes for this to stop. And also that we are able to return to normalcy for the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of DRC.
So, according to UN experts, 4,000 Rwandan soldiers are currently supporting the M23 rebels. You alluded to it in one of your earlier responses, saying Rwanda is backing the rebels. Rwanda denies any involvement. From what you see on the ground, exactly how involved is Rwanda? And is all the blame on Rwanda?
Well, I think as the international community and even as us, MONUSCO, being on the ground, there is a group of experts who is documenting everything on the basis of the Sanctions Committee, which is part of the Security Council. It's one of the tools of the Security Council. So if one wants to have all the information related to what is happening on the ground, these are the documents and the report of those experts are, for me, the basis to use as reference point as to the behavior of anyone in Eastern DRC. So, and they are public and they are made public, so it's not something which is hidden.
Right. I mean, Rwandan President Paul Kagame says his troops are acting in self-defense against hostile groups based in Congo. What do you make of that?
Well, as MONUSCO, and again, I'm going to focus only on the work that I'm doing here, my role is to support the national security forces against armed group in Eastern DRC and protect the civilian in that context. So this is what I'm here to do. And any particular comments on what head of state is stating or not stating is not my responsibility.
Okay, steering clear of that then. Fair enough. Given the M23's stated ambitions to reach Kinshasa and, the involvement of Rwandan forces plus troops from several African countries, you have Burundi, Uganda, South Africa, what is the risk of the conflict escalating into a broader regional crisis?
When we talk about conflagration or escalation, is what the M23 RDF movement and expansions going into directions where you also have other bilateral military forces and looking at the borders. And when you are looking at the borders, one may wonder if by, I don't know, the way the movements are done from one border to the other, we are not going to see escalation in the neighboring countries.
Right. Let's talk about MONUSCO for a bit. MONUSCO has been accused of not doing enough to end the conflict in the DRC. Again, this is a conflict that has been going on for many, many years. Your outfit has been far from successful. I'm sure you'll be the first to admit, because the conflict, again, is still going on. What have you been doing wrong, in your opinion?
Well, when you are saying doing wrong, in my opinion, I have to say that a number of my predecessors have implemented the mandate that was given to them. And I'm also implementing the mandate which has been given to me. The way the mandate is crafted by the Security Council and insisting on priorities that we have to implement with all the resources available to us, are articulated in three main priorities. One is the protection of civilians. The other one is the implementation of the disarmament, demobilization, and community reintegration and stabilization. And the third one is with the security sector reform. And again, with all of these priorities, we have a partner. We are working in partnership with the host countries, the host nation, and not just with the host nation, with a number of other partners. So when you are asking me the framing of what you have put forward, I leave it with you in your assessment, because for me, this country is where it is. When you look at the history of this country, one has to recognize that, yes, nothing is perfect, but a lot has been done by MONUC and MONUSCO, and still being done. But for now, being the focus on the military aspect, this is where a lot is being riding in terms of the assessment for the mission.
Right. I mean, obviously, it's not me saying it. The people in the DRC, you know, they've been accusing MONUSCO of not doing enough, and that, some even say in some situations that it got even worse. President Felix Tshisekedi has been critical of the UN peacekeeping mission himself, you know, which forced a withdrawal of some troops last year. The withdrawal has now paused due to the worsening security situation. Was it a mistake, you think, to start removing the peacekeepers in the first place?
Well, when you look at the end game of any peacekeeping mission is at some point to leave the country. So I'm going to say what has happened with South Kivu and the entry of M23 RDF in South Kivu is not a result of the withdrawal of the peacekeeping mission. Probably when we look at even our presence in North Kivu, M23 has expanded from November 21 up to now.
Right. I wish I had more time to dig into more. There's just so much to dig into. Bintou Keita, head of the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, MONUSCO. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you.